these are some of the things. Do you want to read? Do you want to read one of these? I don't have the money objection. There's some suggestions of things to say.
So this is what we would say, I understand. However, I have found that if this is something you really want to do, we can find a way to come up with the money. If it's not, then $1 is too much to invest. Can you see yourself doing Premier?
That's a good one, because I think my take on the money is, I think that a lot of times that can be a convenient excuse. It can be an easy out, sort of like a scapegoat, you know, to say, oh, that's too much money. When the real reason behind that is I'm scared, or I don't think I'm fashionable enough, or I don't think I have enough time, or there's lots of different reasons. And sometimes, I mean, any reason is legitimate to the person who it's coming from, you know, but sometimes it's sort of silly. Like, there are people who really think, I can't do this because I'm not fashionable. And that's like, we'll dress you, you know? I mean, that's the easiest one in the world, you know? We'll get you some clothes and jewelry and you're fine. But to some people, that is enough, that's so intimidating for them that they don't think that they can do this, you know? So I think that the money is, it's a convenient excuse, and sometimes we really have to try to figure out if that's the real reason. Oftentimes that's legitimately the real reason. They really don't have the money. And then we can go into, you know, trying to get the money. But I like that answer because it's true. If you don't really want to do it, then it has nothing to do with how much it is. $1 would be too much, like that says. You know, you have to really try to figure out, do you really want to do this? And since Joni came and she talked about, at the end of her one-on-one, she asks people what excites you most about this business and what is your biggest reservation. And I've done 3 one-on-ones myself since she left. And it's funny because I have that question right on the bottom of the survey that we use, but I don't know why I was never using that in my own one-on-ones. Mm-hmm. It's a great question. I was using the scale of 1 to 10 question, mm-hmm. which is good. What Joni says is she first asks, what excites you most about this opportunity? Then she says, what is your biggest reservation, or however you want to phrase that. You don't want to sound negative, you know, what's your biggest fear or whatever.
What's holding you back?
What's holding you back? There you go. What's holding you back? And then on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, and then you can say, what do we need to do to get you to a 10? What I found from the ones that I've done is that each time they said, well, I'm really excited about blah, 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 and right away they went into the reservation, but I'm nervous about this. So they kind of answered that on, before I asked the second question, they had kind of answered it on their own. But that's really good because then in the follow-up, and sometimes we are going to follow up with people for a year or more. Mm-hmm. In the follow-up period, then you can always go back to you know exactly what excited them. You can say, well, you were so excited about, you know, being able to give up that second job, or, you know, your job at Walmart or whatever, you know, whatever the case may be. You can always come back to that with them and get them excited again about what they were excited about. So, the money objection, I really think that it has a lot to do with how we're explaining the money too, because again, money is money, and it can be a lot. It can be a lot no matter what. But I think if we're really explaining the investment and using words like investment and things like that, mm-hmm. I think that really helps with that objection. That you won't get that objection as often. Not necessarily, of course, and it's not to say like you're doing anything wrong if you're getting that objection, but I think that makes a big difference if you're really thoroughly explaining what exactly you get, and if you're getting excited, you know, get excited about. I try to put a lot of energy. I put the bulk of my time into those 2 pages, the investment pages, the $3.95 and the jewelry, and I try to get really excited and really getting them understanding this is a deal. This is the best deal in town. You are getting all this jewelry for this much money, you know, and really trying to get them to see that. I think that really helps with the money objection.
You know what, too? I did start saying, because when Joni did her OP, she said how she explains the $3.95 and the $3.50 that you renew with. That's you hiring your personal accountant, and then explaining all the things that you're paying your accountant to do in Texas for you for the year. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's really, really good.
Good.
Yeah, that makes it a heck of a lot easier to explain, too.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to swallow, too. $3.95.
Yeah.
And after the homework and after Joni, it was like, oh, okay, well, I had my own personal office staff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, going on.
Yeah, I mean, it is the $3.95. That is a deal. And like I shared last time, I didn't really get it when I was first. I didn't understand what it was all about. And so when I was first doing my OPs, I would sort of skim over that page. I was like, oh, it's $3.95, and you like get some of this stuff, and then I would go right to the jewelry because I didn't get it myself. So obviously, I wasn't good at explaining it. And now that I get it, and now I really believe it, we get so much for that $3.95. I mean, we really do. There are a lot. It's unique because there are a lot of direct sales companies that have to do a lot, you know, on their own, and it's more time. I mean, when we say it's about four hours per show, I can say that with total confidence. It really is. I mean, yeah, there's other paperwork and there's whatnot on the side, but when it comes to like the show itself and the time that goes into the show, we pretty much do it, and we come home and we enter it, and then maybe a couple weeks later we'll process a replacement exchange, or you know, we follow up a little bit or whatever. But for the most part, it's a pretty minimal time commitment. And so that's, you know, especially if time is one of their objections, really get in to understand, listen, Premier does a lot of this for us, so it's not a big time commitment. I think one thing too, a lot of people, and they're not always going to tell you this, but I think a lot of people have been burned by other direct sales companies. Or either they've been in one. I mean, almost the majority of people at our shows, they've either been in one themselves, or they at least have someone really close to them who's been in another direct sales company. And so it can kind of give us all a bad, you know, a bad rap. The things, which is another reason why it's so important for us to make sure that we're never complaining to our friends and family, you know, because they're listening, and it can really affect whether or not they would ever get into Premier or any other direct sales company for that matter. Are there any other objections you've gotten?
I've gotten all these. That's them right there.
Okay, let's keep going then. Let's go down the
I don't
line.
have the time, and that's probably my second biggest one. How much time do you think it will take? Do you have an extra 16 hours in a month for 4 shows, or 8 hours for 2 shows? And then it says help them break down the time.
Okay, that's good. Anything to add to that? Time?
I explained to them how, because I do my shows Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whenever. I explained to them that there are some ladies that have their shows on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And they tell their hostesses, you need to be ready to close your show that night because they don't want to take yet another day away from their family.
Right.
And I said, if people want to book a show, they'll pick a Tuesday or a Thursday because that's what you have, and they like you, and they're now bonded with you or whatever.
Yeah.
And I explained that to her, and that's one of the last things I told her before she told me that she wanted to sign up. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but I remember when we were at Curves that morning, I was telling you about that when you were on the phone.
We worked on you for a while.
I always tell people too, the number one question that I get, and then I know people are interested, or even during my OPs, or even just at shows or whatever, is people ask me all the time, how many shows a month do you do? They always want to know that. And so I tell people that because a lot of times, if you've ever seen the way that they do it in Tucson, and sometimes I do it this way, when you're doing the OP and you're explaining the sponsoring, when you do it like big money, you know, you do that whole thing. I think Joni did it, but she didn't have the actual money. Okay. Yeah. But almost every time you do that, the prospects, you know, say how many nights a week do you want to work? They'll say 2 or 3. Sometimes people say 4, and we're all thinking 16 shows a month. Like no, you know. But people don't understand that. So that's really important to point out to people too. When time is an objection, say the average jeweler in Premier does. It's less than 2 shows a month on average in Premier. If you're doing more than 2 shows a month, you're above average in Premier. So you can tell them that. You can say the average, because people like to hear that. They like to think. They don't like to feel like they're not doing enough or they're not, you know, whatever. So I always try to point that out to people. I say, I do 4 to 6 a month. Sometimes less, sometimes more. It just depends. And then people go, okay, there you go. So you can say, I average 3 a month, you know, and then they go, oh, like you can see like the relief. Oh, okay. Oh, really? Only 1 a week? Yeah, that's it. That's what I do. You know, sometimes a little more. People really like, in my experience, people love to hear that. It's like a relief to them because they're thinking
that is going to be a part-time job.
Yeah, they're thinking. And I always, you know, and then if they're still thinking it's too much time or whatever, you know, again, just trying to figure out, well, what is it about it that you want to do it? If it's money, then you have to put some time